Department of Homeland Security is about to shut down. We don't know how to get it back open. What does that mean? It means ICE will be shut down. It means TSA will be shut down. They're not going to be paid. That'll impact airport travel. Coast Guard be shut down. FEMA, God help us if we have a natural disaster. What's about to happen is top of the list, king of the hill, number one, stupid. Because the Karen wing of the Democratic Party wants to defund ICE. The Democratic Party also wanted us to defund the police.
During a tense debate in Washington over funding for the Department of Homeland Security, Senator John Kennedy delivered a fiery speech that quickly drew national attention. Kennedy argued that the looming shutdown of DHS was not the result of normal policy disagreements, but rather political pressure inside the Democratic Party. According to him, a faction within the party was demanding that lawmakers refuse to support funding unless major restrictions were placed on immigration enforcement. Kennedy warned that if DHS were allowed to shut down, agencies like TSA, ICE, FEMA, and the Coast Guard could face major disruptions, potentially affecting airport security, disaster response, and border enforcement. His remarks were blunt and highly critical, accusing political leaders of prioritizing internal party demands over keeping essential government services running. The speech quickly spread online and sparked a wider debate about immigration policy, government funding, and the role of partisan politics in Washington.
First, I want to try to explain to the American people what's going on around here. Some people are going to try to tell you, American people, that what we're engaged in is a rational discussion of how to use scarce taxpayer dollars to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Now, that's not true. Wish it were. The Department of Homeland Security is about to shut down. We don't know how to get it back open. What does that mean? It means ICE will be shut down. We've got some ideas about how to keep it operating. They have enough money. It means TSA will be shut down. They're not going to be paid. That'll impact airport travel. Coast Guard be shut down. FEMA, God help us if we have a natural disaster, it'll be shut down. What's about to happen is top of the list, king of the hill, number one, stupid. And it's happening just not because of policy. It's happening because of raw gut politics. If you could see what I see, your gag reflex would be permanently triggered. Here's what's going on. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party is in control of the Democratic Party. And the Karen wing of the Democratic Party, not all Democrats, but there's clearly a Karen wing. Sometimes I call them the loon wing. They have gone to the Minority Leader Jeffries and my friend Senator Schumer and said, don't you vote for that Homeland Security bill. Why? Because the Karen wing of the Democratic Party wants to defund ICE. Now, we've seen this vampire movie before. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party also wanted us to defund the police. How'd that work out for us? The criminals are still laughing. Now they want to defund ICE. And Senator Schumer and Minority Leader Jeffries two good men. They've made a bunch of unreasonable demands that no person with a brain above a single-cell organism would vote for. It would put handcuffs on ICE. That's just a fact. And they know that. I'm not going to vote for them. Sure not going to vote for them with a gun to my head. Now, but I'll tell you the reality. We could go to Senator Schumer and the minority leader in the House and say, okay, we accept every one of your conditions. The Democrats still are not going to vote to keep DHS open. I mean, I don't blame Senator Schumer for trying, but he's kind of wandering around here like one of those Roombas. He looks like a man who's lost his luggage at the airport. I mean, he's making these demands, and if we accepted them, we're not, but if we did, he couldn't deliver the votes. Because nobody on my side of the aisle wants to defund ICE. And that's what this is all about. And some of my colleagues are trying to pretty it up. Lots of play acting. They might be late, a little late for getting their name in for the Academy Awards, but maybe next year. They're trying to muddy the water, make it look deep. Like we're having this discussion about efficiencies at the Department of Homeland Security. Nope, very simple. The Karen wing of the Democratic Party has told every single Democrat, if you don't vote to shut down DHS, if you do vote to fund ICE, we will punish you politically the rest of your natural lives. That's why we're about to have a shutdown. Now, this stuff isn't complicated. Here's what I think most Americans believe. Illegal immigration, Mr. President, is illegal. Duh. If none of us are above the law, I believe that. I bet you believe that. If no one is above the law, how come people in our country illegally are above the law? Immigration statutes are not some second-tier laws that you can violate without consequence. It's the law. If you don't like it, change it. I believe in enforcing our immigration laws. Now, how you enforce them matters. By God, you better believe it matters. Those laws have got to be enforced in conformity with equal protection and with due process and in accordance with standards set forth by the United States Supreme Court. I think it was 1968 in a very famous case called Terry v. Ohio. Cop can't stop you unless that cop has reasonable suspicion. Not probable cause, reasonable suspicion to believe that you have committed, are committing, or is about to commit a crime. It's not subjective. It's an objective standard. And our cops, including but not limited to our ICE officers, have to follow it. Now, you can protest. That's fine. That's your right to protest. You don't have the right to protest violently. You don't have the right to harass an ICE officer. You don't have a right to spit in his face. You don't have a right to threaten his children. You don't have a right to get his home address and go to his house and try to harass his family. You don't have the right to block the street so the ICE officer can't get through. You don't have the right to kick out a cop's tail light. You don't have the right to go burn Christmas trees. You have the right to protest. But not violently. Because you know what? Two reasons. Violence undermines the morality that you say your movement is built upon. Dr. King knew that. That's why he wanted nonviolent protest. Gandhi knew that. President Mandela knew that in South Africa. Violence undermines the morality that you say your movement is built on. Now, there's a second reason that you can't protest violently. It's against the law. And it's bone deep, down to the marrow, stupid. If you act like a butthead with a cop or an ICE officer, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. Here's a little tip. It's free. Cops will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. And that's what this debate is all about. I hope we get it worked out. I don't want to see flights stop. I don't want to see FEMA not be able to respond. I don't want to see the Coast Guard have to shut down. But the Karen wing of the Democratic Party is the cause of this.
Senator John Kennedy took the Senate floor to address the growing standoff over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. In his speech, Kennedy argued that the funding dispute had little to do with technical budget negotiations and more to do with political strategy. He claimed that pressure from activist groups inside the Democratic Party was pushing leaders to block funding measures that included continued support for immigration enforcement. Kennedy warned that a shutdown of DHS would affect multiple federal agencies, including TSA, Airport Security, the Coast Guard, FEMA Disaster Response, and ICE operations. He also emphasized that immigration laws exist for a reason and should be enforced while still respecting constitutional protections like due process and equal protection. The speech framed the debate as a broader conflict over immigration policy and government priorities, and it quickly became one of the most talked about moments from the Senate's ongoing funding battle. As Congress struggled to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government funded, Senator John Kennedy used his time on the Senate floor to criticize what he described as political maneuvering behind the scenes. Kennedy argued that the Department of Homeland Security was facing a possible shutdown because of disagreements over immigration enforcement and funding for agencies like ICE. In his remarks, he warned that allowing DHS to shut down could disrupt airport security through TSA, delay disaster response from FEMA, and limit Coast Guard operations. Kennedy also discussed the importance of enforcing immigration laws while still respecting constitutional standards established by the courts. His speech combined policy arguments with strong political criticism, accusing lawmakers of creating unnecessary chaos during a critical funding debate. The remarks quickly circulated online, adding fuel to the broader national discussion about border security, federal funding, and the future of immigration policy in the United States.